We're gonna have a really raw, honest conversation today, and I'm gonna be totally blunt in everything I'm saying. Some of the things I talk about, I will have likely never said before, but I also wanna preface this video by saying that we're gonna talk about mental health and mental instability. So and I don't know where this conversation is gonna go, but if you think you can be triggered by that in any way, then just click off and please come back next week. Okay, let's get into it. My first video was about how I ended up broke at 39. And one of the reasons I made that video is because I went through the whole explaining how I came to be in debt and completely, depleted of my savings and investment accounts. But I also went on to say the reason why I was making that video is because I felt I'm very sick right now. So if I sound different or nasally or weird, I'm sorry, I'm just very sick. I said the reason why I felt so different from other people that I had seen in videos explaining their personal finance journeys, whether it was their own personal videos or whether it was on Ramit Sethi's YouTube video. A lot of these people, when faced with cutting down on spending on like personal care and personal grooming or shopping, seem to kind of just be okay with it, or a lot of them didn't put so much emphasis on physical appearance. And so I do. And because of that, I just felt different. I felt like their struggles weren't fully my struggles. So there's a few reasons why I'm making this video today. One, because what I'm going to talk about, I think not a lot of people talk about it. I think people that suffer from this are either misdiagnosed, they don't know they suffer from this, or they feel so much shame around it that they just don't talk about it, which is where I was for most of my life. The other reason is because there's a guy, I don't remember his name, but he made a video reacting to my first video. And in it, he, made a lot of comments. A lot of them were incorrect or rude, but I don't really care about any of that. What I did care about is that the part when I got to speaking about my BDD, also known as Body Dysmorphic Disorder, he kind of like just swished it away. He was like, oh my God, and just cut it out and then went on to another portion of the video, like completely dismissed it. And I was a little insulted because I think a lot of issues that people deal with, whether it's anxiety or depression or body dysmorphia or bipolar or like a million other mental health disorders, I think that people have an easy time dismissing it because you can't easily see it, and it might be hard to easily identify with that person. And then I had a few people in my comments suggest that I was self-diagnosed, which is not the case either. So I'm going to explain to you exactly what body dysmorphia is, how I came to realize that I actually had this mental illness, because it is officially and clinically defined as a mental illness, and why this has been the absolute root cause of every single purchase and shopping decision I have made. And I just want to be clear, I'm not using this as an excuse. Like, I know if I don't have the money and I'm still shopping or I'm buying way more things than I need, I know it's a bad financial move. This may sound crazy to somebody that doesn't go through this, but the pain and suffering I feel from not using that thing or buying that thing far outweighed in the moment. That's the key. That is the key to in the moment, not long term, far outweighed the money I could save and put away by not buying that thing. So let's quickly define, just so you're clear on what body dysmorphia is. Body dysmorphia is someone who struggles with obsessive thoughts about their imperfections that are all-consuming, meaning you're thinking about these imperfections, basically things that you absolutely hate about yourself, 3 to 8 hours a day on average. Just the thought of this goes through your mind constantly. The person may find it hard to focus on anything else but their perceived flaws. It can lead them to seek out plastic surgery, me, other cosmetic procedures and fix what they find wrong in their physical appearance. Some signs and symptoms. You obsess about your perceived flaw that others see is minor. You believe that others are judging your appearance negatively. You feel that that defect makes you ugly. You repeatedly check yourself in the mirror. You try to camouflage your defects with makeup, hat, clothing, and body positioning. You over-exercise. You repeatedly change clothes, and you routinely compare yourself to others. So that is body dysmorphia in a nutshell. And I just want to be clear. I think that there is a difference between somebody having insecurities around their looks and somebody actually having body dysmorphic disorder. I consider myself somewhat lucky because a lot of people who suffer from this, it interferes with their social life and their work life. Like a lot of people that suffer from this, it hits them so hard that they are actually homebound. They cannot be in front of other people. And although I do have moments of this in my life, it's not so bad that it keeps me from living in society. So I do consider myself lucky in that category. But if you read more about this, it can be very severe. Let's talk about the past and how I kind of got to where I am right now. The earliest memory I have of having body dysmorphic disorder, and I had no idea what this was at that time. I did not classify it as this, but now that I know what it is, I can look back and kind of identify what was going through my mind and why. I was in 3rd grade, and I remember sitting in this metal chair in my classroom, and I wore stretch pants all the time. Even though my mother tried so hard to get me into jeans, I only wore stretch pants. And I remember sitting down and looking at my legs and thinking that my thighs looked enormous, which is really sad for a 3rd grader. And so I thought that if I just lifted my feet up on my tippy toes and my thighs would look smaller, and so that nobody around me would think I was as big as I was. And then from then on, my body issues progressed. So I hated the summers because it meant bathing suits and hanging out in shorts. I just concealed myself to the best of my ability. In 5th grade, to the father and daughter dance, I wore a full-on pantsuit to hide every part of my body, while all of my other friends wore cute little dresses. I felt like I was just this strange being, and I just constantly felt all the time like every single person was looking at me because of the worst ways possible. They were just staring at every single bad thing that was wrong with me. This progressed through grade school and through high school. I was lucky enough that in the neighborhood I grew up in, I had other girls that grew up in that neighborhood, and we were friends since we were little, and they were 2 years older than me. So when I was in 5th, they were in 7th, and then they went to high school before I did. So and they were like the cool girls. And so I could share their makeup and clothing. And I was considered a little more popular. Like I always had a way into groups because of them, because I had like a way in with upperclassmen. Otherwise, I would have been just a hermit in my house, never leaving. And if I had done that, I don't know where I would be now, because I think I would have lacked a lot of social skills. It is because of those girls that I grew up with. We were like thick as thieves, and it's because of them that I developed the social skills that I have today, and I'm so grateful for them. And so through high school, I had a little bit of money because I had a side job, but really I just begged my mother to buy me as much makeup and clothing as she possibly could so that I could conceal what I felt was hideous. I basically just like fake it. I faked it until I could make it. I never made it. So when I was 18, I met this boy who was, he became my boyfriend. And I was out of high school at that point, and he was a bodybuilder, and his main focus was on nutrition and working out. And at that time, I had no knowledge of what healthy food was, and I had barely never ever worked out. In fact, I still don't know why he dated me, But he did. I felt like a monster near him, but I still dated him because I don't know why I did, honestly. I just did because I did. The good thing that came out of that relationship, good and bad, is that I took all of his knowledge of exercise and nutrition. The thing is, though, I took it to another level. So this is where my eating disorder came in. And so once I started dating him, I started eating only egg whites and canned plain tuna. And I exercise excessively, like 2 to 3 times a day. I ran all of the time. I dropped weight very quickly, but no matter how small I got, I felt huge. I remember I would wake up in the morning and the first thing I would do was like look at my stomach and to see if it looked thin enough. And if it didn't, I would do like an extra exercise regimen. Or if I was driving down the road, I would, and I went over a bump, like if I could feel even a little jiggle, it would send me into a spiral. All of these efforts were to give me some sense of control because I felt so out of control with how I thought people were judging me. And so this was a way to kind of like get some control back. So we broke up. After we broke up, I developed a better relationship with food, but not perfect. I still exercise excessively. But I started eating more than canned tuna and egg whites, although I kept my calories low. Like I watched them like a hawk, and I wouldn't go over like 1,200 to 1,300 calories. And during this time, I was making a little more money, so I was shopping a lot more. And I never really went into debt shopping. I always had like a little nest egg, which was like tax returns, and I would just dip into it throughout the year. But I would not go out with friends if I didn't have something, an outfit to wear. I would spend, if I knew we were going out that weekend, I would spend an entire day at the mall going store to store in a frantic looking for something to wear to make me feel somewhat confident. So that persisted for a while. Then around 23, I met my boyfriend who he was my last relationship. I was with him for a little over 10 years, and he was the one who was financially comfortable. And we started dating. My spending and shopping continued. After about 2 years, we started to combine things more. And this whole time, he took me shopping a lot, and I accepted it, obviously. And after 2 years, we started to combine more things, which gave me less pressure and less things I had to pay for, like the fixed costs, and more things I could just spend on shopping. During this time, I became fixated on getting plastic surgery. There was a lot of things I wanted to do to fix myself, including liposuction. And I was like, I think I weighed like probably 124 or 125 around this time. So I went to the doctors I was probably like 24 or 25 maybe. It's hard to remember. And my doctor said, I think you have Body Dysmorphic Disorder. I'm going to send you to see a therapist. And I was like, okay. I had no idea what that was and what that meant. So I went to go see the therapist. We had a few sessions, and she said, you do, in fact, have Body Dysmorphic Disorder, and I want to put you on an SSRI. It means like serotonin something, something, something. I don't know. But anyway, it is a type of medication that treats anxiety and OCD because BDD is like a subset of OCD. And I said, no, because I have somebody very close to me who was over-medicated by doctors throughout the years, and it basically ruined her life. And I was like, I don't want to end up like that. It terrified me, so I said no. So I saw a therapist on and off for another year. And during this time, like, I don't think I'm stressing enough that from grade school up until, I had some good days where I felt okay about myself, but the majority of the time, up until this point, it was 24 hours, not 24 hours a day, every waking hour of the day, I was thinking about how much of a monster I looked like, how ugly I looked, how I hated the way I looked, how I wished I could just be different, how fat I felt. It was just always. Like when I would go into a store or be out in public and I would be like, oh my God, they're staring at this and this and this constantly. And it makes you feel like the anxiety it produces is overwhelming. And these thoughts are also just exhausting. After about a year, I went to go see a different therapist, and she was like, look, you, because I had all these surgeries lined up, and my partner at the time was like, I really want you to go see somebody different. So I went to go see a different therapist, and she was like, this is really bad, and I don't think you see it, because the problem with BDD is that, well, this is an issue that I have, is that a lot of people in the body dysmorphic disorder community, a lot of professionals say the person that suffers from BDD has a flaw that most people don't see. But in my mind, I was like, I have these flaws. They are apparent. They are here, like they exist. This is not, crazy town. Like, what am I supposed to do with this? They're hideous. And a lot of professionals will call it delusional thoughts. So anyway, I saw this therapist, and she was like, and I explained to her all the things that I just hated and what was going on in my head. And she's like, I think you really need to be on medicine. So I was like, okay. She's like, we're going to start you off really, really low. So I started off at 5 milligrams of Lexapro, and I felt better. And then we went up to 10 milligrams, and I felt better. And I was in no way cured, but it definitely took the edge off. So I just felt not as consumed with having to get all of these surgeries and do all of these things to fix myself, although I still just felt like a monster compared to a lot of people. I'm going to be really honest here, because some of this, I think all of this stuff are things that I've never said out loud to anybody. But this is how my brain works today, even now. If I'm sitting, let's say I'm working, this is like a normal day for me. Let's say I'm working, okay? And my boyfriend is to the left or the right of me, and he has a direct inline view of my, let's say, my side profile. I am working, but the entire time my mind is saying, like 100 times a minute, he's gonna like all of a sudden catch a bad angle, but like my real angle, and just think like, God, she's actually really ugly. Like, what am I doing with her? Or, God, that looks like, look at her face, that looks hideous. And so, like, I try to, like, move my bodies in certain ways so he doesn't have to see that. Even when I'm, like, on my phone, I'm thinking, like, oh my God, my face looks fucking hideous right now. Like, please don't look at me. Please don't look at me. I try to even, like, move my hair like this so he can't fully see my face. So, like, I'm just constantly thinking about it. And also his family, like his family's wonderful, and they've never showed any sign of thinking this way, but this is just what goes through my mind all of the time. My boyfriend is a very, objectively, I would say a very attractive man. Like he just has great all around features. And his family hit the lottery in the gene pool. They are all just very attractive people. His nieces, his nephews, his sisters, his brothers, just everybody. They're all very attractive. And I feel like every time we're together, they're looking at me and him and thinking like, what the hell is he doing with her? I don't get it. He can do so much better. And, but they're really kind to me. I'm not saying like that they act like this, but I just feel like they're looking at me and looking at him and thinking like, I'm a 2 and he's a 10, and what the hell is he thinking? And a few other examples is I can't have children because I have a benign tumor on my pituitary gland, which has I guess it has to do with hormones. And so if I have children, my neurologist said that it would likely become cancerous. So I just didn't chance it. But even before I knew that, I never wanted to have children ever, because, and I thought this from a very early age, and I've never said this to not one person ever, but I never wanted to have children because I never wanted them to inherit all of my bad features. And I don't mean mental, I mean physical. I never wanted them to have to deal with all of the ugly features that I have to deal with. And I never wanted my partner to look at me and think that I gave him a hideous child. Like, now I have to deal with this child for the rest of my life who's so ugly, and the child's ugly because of you. So I decided very early on that I would not have a child because of that. And just a few other examples, because I really want you to have an idea of what it's like living in my brain. I take a ferry to an office twice a week, a boat, and I was sitting on the boat and I was working, and there was two construction guys, worker guys, sitting across from me, and they had a direct line of my side profile. And the whole time I was working for an hour, I just kept thinking that they were thinking that I was just hideous, and they were basically just dissecting every ugly feature about me. And just like, when there's something so bad that you can't stop looking at it? Like, that's what I feel like they had with me. Like, something like so disgusting that you just have to like stare at it to really get a good view of it. And then also, like, in the gym, I wear a hat down low with big headphones because I kind of want to hide from everybody. I just want to be in and out, and I fear that if I was to take my hat off and just go in normal, that people would look at me and be like, whoa, that's scary. I'm kind of like, I think of myself as a Monet. From afar, you just see kind of like a blonde blob, but up close, it's like, whoa, that's scary. Like, that is not what I thought I was getting. So basically, I have to eat because my blood sugar is dropping significantly, and I started to get a little shaky. And I had medicine. I just took Dayquil, so I don't know if that had anything to do with it. So basically, if I really want to sum this up, I don't even know. I can't explain the depth to how much BDD has impacted my life and my mental health. But basically, all of the clothing I've ever purchased and all of the hair stuff and makeup stuff and shoes is to distract myself and everybody else from my severe ugliness. I don't even think ugly. I feel like ugly is an understatement. But it is basically to distract everybody else from that, because I feel like if I'm dressed well enough and if I have this stuff to distract, then anybody will have to dig a little harder to see how ugly I am. I've been reading a lot of medical journals, and they have this eye technology. They have this eye tracking technology where a person without BDD, when they examine a person's face or emotions, will look at the face, and their basic eye tracking goes from the eyes to the nose. So it basically looks like an upside down triangle. Whereas a person with BDD, their eye gaze is neurotic. It's all over the place. There's lines everywhere. And people with BDD lack the ability, for the most part, to see a big picture. They're so detailed, which is why they focus on these little things that they usually hate about themselves that others don't necessarily see. This is what I'm going to do. I'm still on Lexapro. I will continue to be on this medicine, probably forever. I don't know. But I've read a lot of medical journals, and I'm going to continue reading that. And I think I'm going to do more videos on this because there are a ton of videos and like tips and tricks and things to do for anxiety and depression and a million other mental issues and things that people struggle with. But if you look at BDD, there's like nothing. So I'm going to continue to read medical journals. From what I gather, there's 3 major ways that people treat BDD. It's an SSRI, which I'm on. It's cognitive behavioral therapy or another form of therapy. So I may seek out therapy in the future, but for right now, I'm going to buy a book on cognitive behavioral therapy written by a woman who basically pioneered treating body dysmorphic disorder. And this cognitive behavioral therapy book is meant to be for therapists and professionals who want to treat BDD and basically how to treat their patients. So I figured, why bypass the therapist and just learn everything there is to know about this disease? Because I feel like no matter what, I'm fixing my spending problems. I'm not going to be perfect, okay? And some people still don't agree with what I spend and how I spend, but I'm doing my best and I'm going to continue to keep trying my best. But I'm not going to continue down the road that I was. There's no way, because as stressful as it is to deal with feeling like I look like a monster and like I have no shield, which is like new clothing and shoes, the anxiety and depression that will come on knowing that I don't have a savings or a safety net will probably outweigh that. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to learn everything there is to know about body dysmorphic disorder. I'm going to try as much as I can I'm going to do as much as I can do to learn about how to treat body dysmorphic disorder. And I'm going to continue to cut costs, pay down my debt, and increase my savings. And I'm just going to fight through this to the best of my ability. Right before I sat down to film this video, I had a talk with my boyfriend because I haven't talked about I've suffered in silence. For a long time when I was younger, I felt like everybody thought like me, but nobody talked about it. And then once I learned what body dysmorphic disorder was, I knew nobody thought like me, or a lot of people didn't. I couldn't talk about it. I couldn't explain how I was feeling, because I feel like the problem with body dysmorphic disorder, when you explain it to somebody else, is when you say, oh yeah, I hate this, and this about me, or I'm just so ugly. The natural reaction for somebody would be like, no, you're not. You're fine. You're beautiful. You look great. Because nobody actually understands the suffering involved in it, in the way that you feel. The feeling of feeling like the entire public is just examining every ugly thing about you. Anyway, so I had a talk with him, and I basically was just like, look, this is one thing we've never talked about. If I tell you this, there will literally be no secrets between us at all. This is how I feel. This is what I'm struggling with. This is what I've always struggled with. Just know this. And he was very understanding, and he got it. And I felt a little weight lifted off of me. I'm going to continue to keep doing research and continue to stop spending and start saving and pay down my debt. And I just want you to know that if you are suffering from this, and I'm not saying you are, even if you have some of these things, definitely seek out a professional. I'm not a professional, obviously. You are not alone, and it is okay, and you should definitely talk to somebody about it. And also, this is not just a woman thing. A lot of studies show that it is both men and women 50-50, and some studies show that it is some women, 60% women and 40% men. If you feel like this is you in any way, or you can relate to this, then I suggest you look it up. I will leave some resources below on body dysmorphic disorder, maybe a few videos if I can find them, although, yeah, I'll leave a few videos. And if you have any questions or comments, please do leave them below, and I will see you next week.